Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia could do oye aswaya from the BBC. Now BBC is making him trend so much just because of Nsamosi Kekeke. We mostly get African leaders going to BBC for interviews. You know, the BBC want always the fact to be told. But the truth of the matter in there, as some Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia it will shatter NDC, and it is really going to be a very strong response to one more quarter to Ayampia Watamaningina. And this will also go down as history as one of the best oil conversation and interview it ever happened. I am actually very happy for him. There were certain things he be okay. No, throw the praises for himself. He was actually throwing the praise for Nangasane boss, which is Nana Dan Kwakufado. See, kudos to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. YRDP. Now, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is also currently trending on the social media space this year because of Baby Okoduri and Nsembia Kaka. Now, the BBC, another the British Broadcasting Corporation, Jumakubia, made up of journalists, now essentially a broadcasting house, some trending issues within Africa, you know, the western part of this world, no, other part, Asian part, they talk about it. Now, this time around, they decided to, you know, interview Mpemfubia. They are within Africa now, outside of Africa. Now, that must particular segments and what they do those programs, no. In time memorial, no, they invite a lot of people to their park. From one African country, or Africa, will interview a lot of people. It has really become, you know, something I say. They really want to make sure that they get from actually the right source. In a president, a vice president, a MPP, they really get the information from the right source just because of the fact that they want to make sure that they are not just dealing with just propaganda. They get it from the right source. Now, but I remember that it was just some time ago, John Dramani Mahama could do BBC in an interview. Will be said no there, as a bribe that, no there. According to some Ghanaians as more because of some will be said no, or that the answer or former president or the man or the Ghana food be no main one. In the Java propaganda na abandon, you know, it's a democratic dispensation we are in Tibo people will bring out their views and one interest just because of another Moate. And I think those Ghanaians, they don't really go in line with John Dramani Mahama. However, honestly, answer which is no best to him and not the man. Now, moving forward, no, the current president for Ghana, the current president, now the vice, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Now, when you could do BBC in an interview, it's currently trending to the moment. Now, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, no nyakonya onye journalist no in Zinkomo, and in some ways, now, you would bear with me there. The policies of the New Patriotic Party, which is MPP, has actually been garnered out there because of the fact that it has really become the social intervention and will solve a lot of problems. So, the MPP party itself, no, it really took a particular government from the NDC. Now, actually, John Dramani Mahama as president, and the vice, Nadankwa Akufo-Addo came to inherit a lot of things. According to some Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, also there were a lot of things that were not going well for Ghana. Actually, Ghana is a work in progress. But also, the MPP party will transform. They will move up. No, and that is the main reason why he always want to make sure that the work of Nadankwa Akufo-Addo is always being a noise abroad. I want to know because personally, he did not really take the credit for himself. He rather gave the credit to Nankasane boss. So that really showed that as a vice president, you know that you are under someone as a vice. However, tomorrow you can also become a president, and you can also become a leader. So I think that you should give him the applause and those accolades for saying all those things that particular interview. Now, very interestingly, we'll be saying some about NDC being the opposition party and Simbia Waka about him. Now, you'll be surprised how he answered every one of them. One man connected as some Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, time BBC journalist. What have you know? Now, Kona Yambra.
I think that Governor Standard, as we said, and there are many achievements, but the greatest one, in my opinion, the three senior high school. I think if you look at what a nation needs, a nation needs human capital to develop. And we were losing so many people, so many kids were dropping out of the system because their parents could not afford, fees to take them to school. And that was a price Ghana would be paying later on, because, if you look at it, you'd see that, you will be paying that price for those kids dropping out as they may get into all sorts of deviant behavior, or, they are not going to be able to reach their potential and get jobs and all of that. So we thought that this was a major issue facing the country. And the president had that vision, which he articulated in the 2016 manifesto, having gone around the whole country and said, we need to bring free senior high school education so that we will get a lot of people in school. And we've been able to increase enrollment by about 70%. Which is just remarkable. All these kids would most likely have been at home. And so today you're getting all of these, in school, 1.2 million children, getting an education, and their quality has not been compromised. The waxy results that just came out has shown the best performance since 2015, and we're very proud of that. And so I think that in terms of social interventions and for economic policy down the road, as you look at this impact, the impact of free SHS is not really fully going to be felt today. In another 10 to 15 years' time, this will be a whole new nation, a very educated nation. And so I believe that it is the biggest achievement because it was opposed very strongly by our opponents. The NDC came out guns blazing and said this will not stand. They advertised against it for over 40 adverts in the election campaign. They demonstrated against it. John Mahama said if he had 2 billion Ghana cedis, he would not spend it on free SHS. He would do it on something more profitable. They basically went to the Supreme Court. Ayariga went to the Supreme Court to stop its implementation. So notwithstanding all of this, to have that vision that it was doable. Some people thought it could only be done in 20 years. Where will we get the money to do it? All of these questions. But Nana Akufo-Addo had a clear vision. He knew where he wanted to take this country. And the free SHS is part of the transformation agenda. Of the transformation agenda, which we have been able to achieve. And I think it's a remarkable achievement. It's a legacy for this country. And I think I'm very proud of it. The president has shown that he had the vision, and it's really, he deserves a lot of credit for what has taken place. So yes, free SHS will be my #1 top achievement for this government in the first term. Yes.
Interesting you should raise that, because rather than, say, social interventions, which, as you said, has been one of the hallmarks of the first Akufo-Addo government, you seem to be very much focused on economics. It, of course, is your forte and your area of specialization.
Yes.
And you have stressed repeatedly the NPP record, as you put it, of economic competence and sound economic management. Now, the NDC, for its part, has been insistent on suggesting that the economic management has led to economic hardship for Ghanaians. What's your response to that accusation?
Well, I don't know where they're coming from. They don't have a leg to stand on that particular question of hardships. We came into office when Ghanaians were really under severe hardship because of the economic mismanagement of the NDC. You recall, there could be no more hardship than 4 years of doomsor that Ghanaians had to endure 4 years. Jobs lost, people died, businesses collapsed, because of doomsor. It's a serious occurrence that Ghanaians lived under. You had a situation where the National Health Insurance Scheme had reverted to cash and carry. That was real hardship because people who were poor, who could not afford the cash to carry, were not given health care. The card wasn't being accepted. So, because the government could not pay the service providers, you had these huge arrears. And so there was real hardship. The ambulance service basically had collapsed. You had no working ambulance services, very few ambulances. And so if you look at the impact of there not being an ambulance service, that's a lot of suffering for people who need an ambulance. In fact, the new ambulances that have been provided have shown, and when you look at the data, the calls that have increased, means a lot of lives are being saved. Without of that, the hardships of the teacher trainees who got their allowances cancelled, and they were reliant. And a lot of these teacher trainees, in fact, they were having families that relied on these allowances. The allowances of the nursing trainees were also cancelled. Arabic instructors' allowances cancelled. You look at the recruitment, the job situation. We had so much unemployment under their regime. And that unemployment, we even had a Graduates Unemployed Association, right? For the first time in our history. That unemployment, was a result of their government's inability to get the private sector going and also to recruit into the public service because there was a freeze on recruitment. So you would find nurses would finish for 4 years and they would be sitting at home after their training. Same with teachers and so on. And there was no recruitment. Agric extension officers, no recruitment. There was just so much unemployment in there, and that was hardships to people who could not find a job to do. Teachers were paid 3 months for 3 years work, right? The 3-month pay policy, right? So these were real hardships that people were enduring under the NDC. Doom saw it over under the MPP. We restored teacher training allowance. We've restored nursing training allowance. We've restored Arabic instructors allowance. We've rebuilt the National Ambulance Service. One constituency, one ambulance. We've rejuvenated the agricultural sector, increased growth from about less than 3% to over 8%. Ghana is now exporting 19 different crops to our neighboring countries. We have moved up in terms of food security in the Global Food Security Index from a number 78 position in 2016 to 59 position now. So cocoa farmers are doing better. The living income differential, the access to fertilizer is much better. You have, as I said, one constituency, one ambulance. You are hiring people in the jobs. So we've created close to over 2 million jobs that we have created across the chain. Planting for Food and Jobs, Nation Builders call for graduates 100,000, the teachers over 90,000, the nursing and health personnel over 90,000, afforestation jobs. We have created a lot of jobs, NEIP over 90,000 jobs, and so on. So when you talk about suffering, the National Health Insurance is working again. When you talk about suffering, for sure, we have reduced suffering. That's the point. We haven't eliminated suffering. I think that is always going to be a work in progress as you deal with the economy. You cannot say you have eliminated suffering. But compared to what we inherited from the NDC, we have reduced a lot of suffering. Free senior high school is saving parents 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. Now, that would have been money they would have had to pay. And a lot of suffering. A lot of mothers had to sell their precious possessions, and fathers had to look for money to just send the kid to school. A lot of girls that you would have seen doing KIA today are going to school that you're seeing. In fact, one of my friends said that mates are difficult to find in Accra these days because the kids are all going to school, and the parents have come and taken them and they're going to school. They were suffering before. The free SHS has reduced that suffering. So we are doing a lot of targeted things, expanded the school feeding program by 78%, LEAP program, expanded it by 53%. In just first term, so we are doing a lot that is reducing the suffering of our people. We have not eliminated it, but we are in a much, much better position. The economy is in a much, much better position to deliver better livelihoods. You've never seen a government, Nanaya, in this country that says free water for 9 months or free electricity for lifeline consumers for 9 months. It has never happened.
Well, but you raise a question there that I wanted to ask you, because this story of success and unquestionable upwards 2019, the year of return and the high that brought and the fantastic economic performance of 2019 was, of course, partly derailed by the advent of COVID, which without question has knocked all countries across the world for six. So do you not think that there is some justification in the sense that, as the NDC would put it, the trajectory that we took, which they see it as a high borrowing and high spending approach to get us to the point where we ended 2019, has been knocked off course by 2020? Well,
I think that what is clear, as you have said, Nanaya, is that COVID has really impacted adversely